Alright, what's up guys? So, should be a quick video today. I'm just taking a look at the patch notes for the upcoming patch 13.11. Taking a look at all the nerfs, the buffs, the system changes. A couple big things. There's also the Rell Midscope and buff sharing changes coming to the jungle. So, first thing we're taking a look at looks like the Rell Midscope. And I'll be taking a look at that in a full in-depth review once that actually comes out. I'll make a video on it specifically. So, Rell's passive is being changed from... Basically, it used to be a large armor and magic resist shred, like, up front to anybody you hit with her Q or your auto. Now it is a stacking system where you actually need to stack 5 times per target in order to increase the amount of resistances that you were taking. Before, you were taking 10% just for hitting them once. Now it's 2.5% per time you do damage to them. So you can stack it up to 5 times, so you technically can get to 12.5, but that requires you to hit somebody 5 times with your abilities. This game and more being streamed over on my Twitch. Submit your games in my Discord for review. A little bit basically slows her down on her resistance stealing, but makes it so that in a longer fight she takes it much longer. Before, when somebody would die, specifically, you would lose the resistances, and it looks like you maintain it now. You get to keep it. No longer does bonus magic damage on hit, and hitting a new target no longer refreshes the passive duration on all targets. And the passive no longer applies to minions. That's kind of sucks. I remember you used to be able to steal a little bit of MR and armor from the minions, so that way when you're dismounted you weren't that squishy. But so now it looks like her Q, instead of it being a heal and the resistance steal, it is now a stun. So it is a directed, basically like a cone stun. You stun people for 0.75 seconds. Does not heal anymore. The cooldown has been changed from 9 seconds at level 1 to 11. The magic damage has been reduced by a lot on it. 10 at base, looks like, and it loses 10 damage per level. But it does... They're adding a jungle damage ratio in case maybe jungle Rell comes out of this midscope change. They're, open to it. The cast time of the self-stun basically has gone from 0.35 seconds to 0.5 seconds. That's like Renekton stun. So realistically, you are stunning yourself almost as long as you are stunning the people that you hit with the Q. Kind of sucks. See here. When Rell casts Q, she moves 100 units forward as she takes a step to swing. So it's kind of like a... Since you're self-stunning, they're giving you a little bit of mobility while you're pressing Q, so you move just a little bit forward and scoot forward on people. And now the Q does the same amount of damage to everything versus instead of just the first enemy hit. So it looks like you can use this maybe for helping wave clear now. It actually has pretty good shove power for your laner. I'm not too sure if you're maxing this first. Probably not. You're probably maxing it second, but that's nice. Gives you a little bit of lane shove. So W, this is her dismount and remount ability. So now when she is dismounted, she gains bonus attack speed starting at 15% all the way to 35% at maxed. She gains 75 attack range, which helps her because a lot of the times she was extremely slow and dismounted, and you really were not going to be able to get very many auto attacks off. So they're giving her some attack range, a little bit more bonus armor and magic resist. A big thing they're changing is she no longer is being reduced to 280 flat movement speed. She's just being reduced by 15%. So it looks like they intend that to be an early game nerf, but a late game buff. So when you're dismounted, after you have your completed boots, you should no longer be basically used to be just completely useless. You were just waiting until you remounted because you were so slow. Now you're pretty fast comparatively, so that's nice. She no longer has a movement speed cap while dismounted, so that's nice as well. Loses a little bit of damage on that, which is fine. She loses a little bit of shielding because she gains all that bonus MR and armor just to compensate. Her maximum slide distance is not as far, which means that the engage range is a little bit smaller, and the AoE radius is also smaller. So jump range, all that. So yeah, they're making it you can't engage from as far with this ability, and the knockup duration is also losing. So the CC on general on this is being nerfed in order to make it looks like the jump speed faster. So the radius of the CC is smaller, and it's not CCing people as long, but it goes faster. They really slowed it down because people, when the champion first came out, like the combo of like CC was way too fast. So that's their compensation for it. It's nice that it's faster. Sucks it's a little bit smaller range, but honestly, faster is better anyways. Let's see here. And another jungle Rell possibility buff here. I think it'd be weird. I don't think she has the greatest. I don't think she's going to have the greatest jungle clear, so I don't think you're going to be seeing her, but maybe. And then on the mount up, she no longer gains bonus passive movement speed while mounted. She does receive 30% flat movement speed when she remounts for 1 second. It's not going to make a big difference, so that's pretty big nerf, but who cares? That was just your remount. If you're not as slow when you're dismounted, everybody will take that as a trade-off for this movement speed when you remount. So, and her E is being changed so that way it gives movement speed, passive movement speed while mounted. Let's see here, from 1 to 13, and it is reduced by 50% while in combat. So let's see here. Per level, she's gaining, it looks like 3 base movement speed. And then it scales up towards 4 around level 8 or so. So, that's pretty nice. Moving the movement speed to a flat amount off of, instead of the remount, onto just her E. They're hoping that if they scale her with levels, she won't be as strong early, which is where lane phase Rell usually was where she was strong, so they're hoping to make it so that way she's not overwhelming in lane, but scales nice. When she activates her E, Rell and an ally charge, gaining ramping movement speed up to 15% at level 1 to 25% at level 3 over 3 seconds. This is doubled when going towards enemies or each other. Additionally, Rell's next attack or Shattering Strike, which is her Q, explodes in an area for 25 to 65 plus 2 to 4% maximum health damage. So they're giving her kind of like a tank killing move that if you both let's see here, yeah, so they're giving her 4% damage to tanks. I think you're maxing this last still. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's like overwhelmingly good, but it is nice. But I'm pretty sure you're still maxing this last. Maybe if Rell, let's see here. Maybe since your Q has a flat stun of 0.75 seconds, it does lose a lot of cooldown when you max it, but maybe there's a chance that you go W into E. We'll see how people are building her once she comes out, but to me, it still seems like a WQ angle, and then E last, because since they already gave you on the passive that you're gaining scaling movement speed, you don't even need to put points in this ability. It's really just to give you and your ally movement speed, and it doesn't give you a bunch of damage, so. Seems interesting. I think she'll be fun. Definitely try her out. Kali's receiving a 10 flat damage buff at every level in her queue, just because they don't feel like she's had very good wave clear or anything. So they're giving her just 10 more flat damage. I think it's fine. I don't think Akali, of all the assassins that have been taking over, I don't think Akali's been the one that's been taking over the most. They're nerfing Amumu after that buff that we just received to Amumu on patch 13.10, where they they increased his base damage on his W to 10 from, I think, 5. They felt like that was too much, especially since I talked about before, this ability was maxed to last. So just basically doubling the base damage was a pretty big buff, and they also feel the same. So they're nerfing it, bringing it down to 7. Still a buff from what it was at 5 before, but not as much, not as OP as it used to be. So I think that makes sense. Amumu has been doing really well in the jungle and also in support, where he in both roles max W last. Aphelios is receiving a nerf to his passive bonus AD. This is like when you put extra points in it when you're leveling. Let's see here. It looks like by 0.5, so he's losing 3 AD at max at 6 points in it. Seems fine to me. I think he's still dominating pro play, and this is a pro play nerf really, because the champion's not really doing that great in solo queue, but in pro play he's still dominant. Aurelian Soul is getting his E-mana cost increased and his magic damage AP ratio decreased. He still is extremely annoying with his E, and see here, it's adding 20 cost at level 1, so that way he's not just gonna get to use his E for free. They're hitting the damage just by his AP scaling ratio, just by a little bit, by 1.25%. Not that big of a deal, but the 20 mana at level 1 is a big deal because this ability is usually maxed last for Aurelian Soul, so 20 more mana every single cast of this. He's probably casting it 3 or 4 times a fight. It's an extra 80 mana. It's a pretty big difference. I think he's still going to be strong until they make it so that his E can't like pull minions out of the tower, though. That's really where the strength comes in, is that he can literally stop like Baron minions or anything from actually hitting the tower. So looks like they're finally giving some buffs to his ear after they shifted all of his power to his W from his Q, just to make it so that way he's a little bit more playable, because honestly he's been struggling. It's a little bit weird to see that they're giving some early cooldown buff to the Q, because that almost is going to make people start maxing it again, which is what they didn't want. They wanted people to max W. And they're giving a little bit more scaling on his W. I mean, he didn't really need more scaling. What he just needed is more early power, because he's way too vulnerable to assassins, especially with an assassin meta just coming out. So Ivern is getting a bunch of adjustments since buff sharing is becoming a base part of the game this patch. And that was one of Ivern's special powers, basically, is that like level 6, every buff that he killed would be duplicated so that somebody else could have it. Since he no longer has that, they need to give him some compensation buffs. So his Q, let's see here, its cast range is increased by 50. That's nice. And his Q's cooldown reduction is now reduced by 50% when used on non-epic monsters. So he can use his Q to hop around the jungle, hop over walls much easier, and it's a little bit longer range. That's nice. They're also making it looks. I think this is a change that they said that you can so he can double tap Q to hop. I thought you could already do that, but apparently not. So you don't have to auto attack if you want to take your Q. You just press Q twice. That's a quality of life change. That's pretty nice. Ivern's W Brushmaker is being changed so that he has passive bonus magic damage on hit when exiting the brush for 3 seconds. Now applying to his ally champions. That's really good. That's making it so that he just base is already buffing like 80 carries. So that's really interesting. It is base damage at level 1 is 5 plus 10% of Ivern's AP. Okay, that's not that much. It's just a little bit, but that makes the ability much more useful. The brush spawn vision duration is gaining 5 seconds. That's really nice. A lot of the times I've seen Iverns, like, they throw up a bush that actually helps the enemy team a lot. and then they just kind of abandon it, and it's almost like it's like self-harming, but an extra 5 seconds of vision really means that the enemy team can't just like steal Ivern's bush and use it against you. The bushes are gaining 15 seconds, it looks like, of duration, or until your team loses vision inside of them. Oh, okay, so the second that your team no longer has vision inside of the bush, it's going to despawn? So that's actually a really good change. That specifically is making it so that the enemy can't use Ivern's bushes against him. It's specific for Ivern. But if you W an area where nobody is, your bushes are going to go away. Like if you're trying to create like a vision trap where they can't walk in, which means that you have to either connect the bushes or somebody has to stay inside of them or maybe ward inside of them. So a little bit weird. I don't, if that's how that actually is going to work, I think that's a little weird, but I think it's still nice, making it so that Ivern's bushes aren't being used against him. I think that helps. Auto attacks empowered with Brushmaker now have a special visual effect to reflect the on-hit damage. Okay, so you get like a little effect around people to know that they're being empowered. Let's see here. His E is being changed so that when the shield detonates and there are no enemies that are hit by the detonation, the shield has not been broken. The duration of the shield is renewed. That's basically, wow. So they're doubling the length of Ivern's E. So that way, if nobody breaks the shield and nobody is inside the circle, it's double the duration. Wow, okay. That's a really strong change. Really? Wow, okay. This is, I mean, you already have kind of Enchantress like supports, but maybe this makes Ivern good? I'm not too sure. I mean, maybe. Daisy's attack range is gaining 50 as she's getting a bunch of buffs to her stats. 20 more movement speed. That's really nice because a lot of the times, like Daisy was chasing people down, she's just barely not able to catch them. In exchange, it looks like they're also they're also buffing the damage that her Daisy slam does. Just by they're giving a base amount at 40 at level 1. That's pretty good. This might make Ivern pretty good. I don't know if it makes him the best jungler. I don't think so, but he's like basically unplayable right now, so I think that's really good for him. I think that probably brings him into playable status. Another Jinx nerf because pro play, Jinx is still being played. They're just hitting her attack speed growth. Kallista's getting a big buff. She's the lowest win rate ADC right now, and she's pretty much struggling, so they're giving her whatever they can in order to make her playable. Bunch of stat changes. She gets another 5 AD nerf at level 1 because they're making it so that her auto attacks do 100% of her total AD instead of 90%. So that's why they're hitting her for 5 more attack damage. Her Q is gaining a 5% AD buff. From what I saw, her Rend is getting buffed by the AD ratio as well. And it's also getting a 4-second cooldown reduction at level 1. Yeah, whenever Kalista is good, she's a lane bully. So if she is good, you'll see her almost immediately and she'll be winning every lane. I don't think that this is enough, but it's definitely good to get her playable. We'll see. If she's immediately the number 1 AD, then you know that this was enough to make her good. Rek'Sai is getting a bunch of buffs finally. I was mentioning last patch that they basically like gutted Rek'Sai with the item changes. So she needed something. They waited a whole patch to do it, but they're buffing her here. So with the removal of Prowler's Claw, she was really suffering. Now they're making it. They're giving her a bunch of buffs. So her tremor sense is, she can see people moving much faster. Like basically, it keeps pinging. It's gonna ping much faster at a 1 second refresh rate instead of 1.5 seconds. She gains max HP healing with her maximum fury when she is burrowed. That's pretty big. Her Q is gaining a big duration or cooldown buff per point. Everybody maxes Q first on Rek'Sai, so now her cooldown for her Q is 2, which means that's going to be up like the whole time. Her basic attacks refresh the buff duration of Queen's Wrath, but her Q buff no longer ends prematurely if she's burrowed for more than 1.5 seconds. That's pretty good, but that's also not helping her mobility. But that makes her like really much stronger. She's gonna have her Q up every like auto attack in a fight. If she hits somebody with a burrowed Q, they're revealed for twice as long. And see here, her unburrow is getting a quality of life update. The targeted range increases to match untargeted range. This will mean that the optimization where it's better to line Rek'Sai up to the edge of your knockup and press W at the perfect time. Okay, so they're making it so that if you used to be able to, you would get close and then you would press W and knock somebody up. You can just right click and it'll automatically knock up as soon as they're actually in range. Okay. Not enough to make her OP, but pretty good. Pretty good buffs. I think in a meta where you're not seeing assassin junglers, she will be good. But when you have assassin junglers, I don't think she's good enough to be against the assassins. But when you see like it come back to like bruisers and stuff like that, she'll see play and she'll go like a bruiser build and be pretty strong. Renekton is getting some buffs. It looks like they're buffing his E cooldown by 2 points at level 1. And making it so that he gains 20 seconds per rank of his R for cooldown. So at 2 points he has 20 seconds off. At 3 points or at like level 16 he has 40 seconds off his R. That's pretty nice. And then they're upping the magic damage that it does per tick. I mean, that's barely anything. 5 damage per tick. That's not much. Most of the time Renektons were using the R to fill their fury bar, so this is going to be pretty good for them. Twisted Fate. This champion's been suffering for a long time now. Basically almost like 2 years now. They're just giving him 2 seconds of CD on his W at level 1. Basically making his W last maxed and I mean, not really last maxed. You're probably doing it second? I don't know. But they're making it gaining 2 seconds. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for Twisted Fate. Ardent Sensor's getting nerfed. No, it's actually not. Wait. Am I misreading that? That's a buff to Ardent Sensor. Ardent Sensor is currently the highest win rate second item purchase for Enchanter supports, which goes against our goals of promoting support item diversity. So they feel like they want to nerf it, but they're nerfing it late game, but they're making it stronger early where people are building it second item right after their mythic. Pretty sure this is a buff to it being at second item until level like 13. At level 13, I think it's a nerf, or level 12. But at early game, this is a buff. So that's like, I don't know whoever changed this doesn't understand that that's actually a buff to the item. They should have just made it, if they wanted to like nerf it like this, they should have just made it 15 to 20% scaling. Dustblade. Dustblade's overshadowed by Yomu's, so they're giving it a small buff. Looks like it's going, it has increased scaling per missing health. That's not a good item, though. Assassins don't really need an item to help them kill something that's missing health. They need an item to help them burst. Like, assassins don't need execute. So this is like, Dustblade is going to be used on, like, people who aren't really assassins, like, using it elsewhere, like maybe like Varus or something. Like maximum bonus damage health threshold. So if you're at 30% health, you do the maximum. Yeah, this is still not making. This is not for assassins, basically. Still, this item, I don't think they understand what assassins really want. Echoes of Helia is getting a nerf. Makes sense to me. But it's only a late game nerf, really. This item's still really good. I was saying when I saw this item, like I thought it was really good. I've been playing with it like all patch long. It's really good. It's extremely busted on Karma, extremely busted on Janna. That's why you see Janna at the highest win rate. It's ludicrous. It just does too much damage. It does too much damage and it does too much healing. It's better than Moonstone on most champions. Like, Gale Force is receiving a nerf, needed because everybody was building it. They're changing it so it loses 50% critical strike chance on the active damage. Okay. And then its execution damage going down by 10%. I still think this is going to be built. I don't think it's not really losing that much damage. Weird. They're afraid because yeah, it's being used really well on Yasuo and Yone. That's weird. Kraken Slayer is receiving a change from magic damage back to physical, but it's getting buffed. They felt like, holy shit, is that like a huge buff to fucking Kraken Slayer? They felt like all the AD items were doing too much magic damage, but this is just one of the items they're changing back to physical, which is making it even better because I think tanks were starting to actually just only build magic damage instead of building, or like MR instead of armor, and actually tanking ADs better than if they were building armor. And now, I mean, this kind of makes it better. Like, it's kind of shifting some of the damage that ADs are doing back to physical, which means that tanks have to itemize, like, for both. Yeah, so that's a big buff, though. That's 85 compared to 20. That's a huge buff. Kraken Slayer might be the best, like, starting item now. Might be the best first item. Moonstone Renewer. They're buffing the healing that it does on a single heal and a chain heal. Also, they fixed a bug where it wasn't working correctly on AoE shields like Seraphine. Yeah, I noticed that. So this is that's nice. That makes it better on Seraphine. Devori Quick Blades. They've fallen pretty far behind. It looks like Crit Brethren in recent times. I thought the item was still good. We're still seeing it on a couple people. Let's see here. They're buffing it by 5 AD. It loses 5 ability haste. It gains 3% more cooldown reduction on auto attacks. Okay, they're making it even better for like the spell slingers. But its mythic passive doesn't give ability haste. It now gives attack damage. Okay. I mean, you don't really need that much ability haste with scaling when you're resetting it with your auto attacks if they're giving you 3% more. So I think that's good. I mean, this item was already, I didn't think it was bad. It was just overshadowed because the ADCs that want this weren't being really played. So Runon's Hurricane, this item needed a fucking nerf. It was way too fucking good on Zeri and Kog'Maw. Both those champions were like fucking destroying with it. So they gutted its damage. They basically halved the damage that the item gives on its own. That's pretty good. Needed to be nerfed. Static Shiv. They're buffing Static Shiv. I think that's kind of crazy because it was actually OP on. It's kind of OP on AP champions, and then they're buffing its base damage plus the damage that it does to minions. I've built it a couple times on mages. You just auto attack a wave. like with one auto attack, you clear the entire wave. If they're giving 30% more damage, you might auto attack and clear the whole wave plus the cannon now. That's a lot of damage. Stormrazor getting a nerf because people, I mean, a lot of ADCs I was talking to felt like Stormrazor wasn't a good first item, but still ADCs were all building it. So apparently they think it's too strong. It's losing 5 AD and it's losing 10 damage. Okay. Apparently this is a core item in Kai'Sa's 3-item build to get her 3 evolutions, and now this makes it so she can't get her evolution. So they're going to take a look at that, but that's a nerf to Kai'Sa. Youmuu's Ghostblade losing. This item is really strong. Every assassin is building it. There's a couple ADs that were building it. Everybody's building it. It was so fucking strong. So now it's losing 5 ability haste. It's losing a lot of lethality, 8 on a single item. That's a lot of lethality to lose. They're also making it take way longer to stack up. So you have to move even farther to stack, which means that I think before, when you were like rotating between lanes, you would probably stack it as soon as you got there. You might have to walk around more to stack it fully. Kind of weird, but big change to this. I mean, the only problem is I still feel like it might still be better than Duskblade. So it might still be built every game, but they did nerf it pretty hard. Maybe Eclipse comes out of this and everybody goes right back to Eclipse. If that's the case, man, did they fuck up this assassin item change? But I talked a little bit about it, but buff sharing is here. So now basically when you're a jungler and you kill red Rambleback or blue Sentinel when your smite is fully upgraded, this usually happens, I think, around like 13 minutes or so, is around the time where people have their smite fully upgraded. Now you will, like Ivern did before, you get a second version of the buff that'll be dropped right after you kill it, and then your mid laner, your ADC, your top laner can come and get it and get a second buff. And then also, if your mid laner or your ADC or your top laner takes your blue buff or your red buff, you will get it as well, because there'll be a little thing for you to pick up. So that's kind of nice, because honestly, it kind of sucks to just be giving away the only way to get gold as a jungler to your laners. So this is a nice change for junglers. Looks like that's the end of the changes. There's a bunch of ARM adjustments. Clash is back. A lot of bug fixes. The DRX skins are coming out. DRX, Aatrox, Akali, Ashe, Caitlyn, Kindred, and Maokai. And it's Prestige Aatrox. Join my Discord and submit your games for the next VOD review.